Welcome to the Paper Snob. This is Tara. Today I'm working on Scraptember, day number 13. Today's prompt is mixed media. So I pulled out, these are 2 sheets of 6x8 pattern paper from Academia, a couple stamps, and I have some inks, and I have some chipboard pieces that I created, and I tend to keep in this little box to use as embellishments. There's also some sequins here that I might pull out of here and use, but I'm going to go ahead and pause, and we're going to start working on the background, and I shall be right back. All right, that is a sheet of white 110-pound cardstock from Joann's. It's a cardstock that I talk about all the time, and it's great for techniques like this. I'm creating a mixed media background with my Distress Oxide inks and my blending tool, and I'm going to tell you that this is an absolute blast. It's a little messy, but it's fun, and I enjoy doing this. I am having a little bit of trouble with my dauber. It's separated from the Velcro piece, and I'm going to have to go get a new one here shortly because it's falling apart on me and it's just not working. So this is Rusty Hinge that I'm using, and I really love Rusty Hinge. It's a gorgeous color, and with the Distress Oxide, I love that chalky look and feel that it has, and it dries really well on this white cardstock from Joann's. So I'm putting some in the upper left corner and some in the lower right left. Let's try again. Upper left corner, lower right corner. Let's get that right. Next color I'm pulling out is Fossilized Amber, and my friend who saw this background before I finished the layout told me that this really reminded her of candy corn, which is funny because this is going to be a Halloween layout. You saw my youngest daughter's costume from 2016 on yesterday's Scraptember video. This video is showing my older daughter's Halloween costume that she mostly created on her own. She bought a few pieces on Amazon, but for the most part, she put together this costume from Goodwill products, the shoes and the dress and stuff. I taught her well how to actually shop at thrift stores, and so she did an excellent job finding stuff to make a steampunk Mad Hatter costume. This last color that I'm putting on here is Ripe Persimmon. This is one that I haven't used a whole lot of, and in fact I think I've only used it once or twice for inks machine, but I've never used the sponge dauber that I have attached to the bottom. And yes, I keep an individual sponge dauber for every ink in my Distress line on the underside of the ink pad. That way I never have to worry about cleaning them, never have to worry about cross contamination or anything like that. The only thing, as you saw, that I have to worry about is the sponge dauber falling apart, and that just is one of those things. You use it and they fall apart. I'm not super worried about the piece of, or the bit of white in the very center, and I will not be putting ink there because there's going to be pattern paper put there in that place, so it's going to be hidden anyway. And so now I'm going to bring in my Tim Holtz spritzer, and sorry for the arm in the way. I am just spritzing it lightly with water, and then I'm going to let it sit for just a couple of seconds, and then I'm going to roll my paper towel roll over the top of it and dab off the excess water. And you can see where the Distress Oxide comes into play. You can see where it starts to show a little bit of the white cardstock underneath, and it's really pretty. So next I am using a brand new bottle of Prima Marketing texture paste. I think it's the color they call it is Graphite. I've had this once before. It dries up super fast. I opened it before I turned the camera on here, and it's already really dry. It is not as creamy as it should be. That's an absolute shame. So I will be putting my press and seal wrap over the top of it to help lock in some of the moisture for it. And I'm only going to put a little bit of the brick look on the upper left and lower right corner. It's just kind of a subtle nod. That stencil came from Scrapping Reflections. I will try to see if I can't find it on her website. She is a friend of mine, and that way if you want to purchase it, you will be able to. So these stamps are actually new, which is why I used the back of that white cardstock, which is what I keep them on, to go ahead and stamp something first. I am not super concerned about it not stamping all of the way. I always forget that I can flip my Versamat over for this process, but it actually doesn't really matter for this because I'm going to be using the chipboard gears as well on here, and I'm just kind of putting something in the opposite corners from my texture paste, which isn't fully dry yet in this process. So I'm trying to be very, very careful and not smear or smudge that. I love these stamps. These came from AliExpress. That was a new company. I guess it's kind of like Wish or Temu. Anyway, but I had placed an order because a couple of friends had recommended them, and they have super fast service, and I really have liked the products that I've purchased so far. So what you see me kind of doing here is I am scuffing up the edges with my Tim Holtz Distress tool. That is probably one of my most used tools in my space at this point. And I'm just going to scuff up the edges, and I'm going to put these pieces of pattern paper kind of wonky in the center. They're going to be used for large mats for my photos, which I am not going to mat separately. But also I'm going to be using them for bases for my title, which will be We're All Mad Here. I thought that was quite appropriate since it's a Mad Hatter costume, and I'll have to remember to not use that title when I do Seth's photos for 2016 because he was also the Mad Hatter, but we didn't do a steampunk version of his. We kind of patterned his costume after Johnny Depp's costume in the movie. Anyway, it turned out super cute, if I do say so myself. Now I'm just using some white splatters. This is Delusion's White Linen. This is one of my favorite sprays ever. I keep a bottle of it on top of my desk. I'm also going to be pulling in the Hickory Smoke Distress Oxide. This is also another of my favorite sprays. I have kind of put my distress sprays away to kind of force myself to use up those Mr. Huey sprays that I'm always talking about. So here is a close-up of my finished background for you to look at. Now I'm going to scuff up the edges of my photos and expose that white core in the photo paper in place of doing an extra matte. I really love doing this, and I know for some of you it causes you to cringe or gasp or anything, but you know what? In the digital age, we can reprint our photos if we destroy them, and I'm okay with this process. So, and I love the look as well. So I'm going to go ahead and start adhering these photos down. I'm just kind of putting them in the middle of those brick papers. Those brick papers are to die for. I love, love, love that brick pattern paper. Actually, I love 49 & Market's Academia. I didn't think I would like it as much as I did, and I waited to purchase it until practically the last minute. I believe I got it as a pre-order from Scrapbook Generation, and I kind of put off the pre-order for quite a while because I thought, oh, you don't need yet another school themed collection that you're just not going to use because you don't like it. Oh, ladies, I love, 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 love this collection so much, and I shouldn't be surprised. It's 49 & Market after all. I mean, why would that surprise anybody? So that's where my photos are going to end up on the layout. I'm going to use this black thickers font for my title for the We're All Mad Here. And first I put "were" down at the bottom, and then I switch it out because I realized as large as my title, I chose too big of a font, which is kind of crazy and funny since it's not a large font. I really love this font, and I'm hoping I have another packet of it because I've already used it for 3 or 4 layouts this month alone. I'm going to run out of ease really quickly, and because of that I am using the uppercase letters for this title, at least for "were" and "here," because I don't have enough lowercase e's for it otherwise. So yep, moving it up here to the top, and I'll kind of play with those letters a little bit off camera to get them a little more straight and evenly spaced, but for now I'm just kind of sticking them on here. This is why I really love the foam thickers, because they are easy to move around when you are on camera, or even when you're not. And it just makes it really easy for you to move them around and get them placed where you would like them to be placed. And so I actually really love these type of letters because of that. I've also bought some other brands that weren't thickers that tore really easy, but I don't have the problem with this set of alphas at all. So as I finish up getting the title on here, I want to talk about my gears a little bit. These are gears that I created with a very thin chipboard and my Distress Oxide ink sprays. And what I do is I just use the die to cut, like I said, it's very thin chipboard, kind of like the chipboard that you get on the back of a paper pad. And in fact, it might very well be where that chipboard came from. This die that I have has the gears, and it has what I'm going to call photo turns, and what else you'd call those silly things, the little thing I'm gluing down right there. I have a lot of those left over because I don't tend to grab those as much as I do the gears. So I wanted to get a couple of them onto this layout. But this die is actually one of my absolute favorite dies. It is not a thinlet die. It's one of the original Sizzix dies. It's very thick, and you only need it, your material that you're cutting with, and the plastic top and bottom to run it through your Sizzix machine. It is a large die, but it does run through my Big Shot pretty well. So my next step here is I'm going to use some of these sequins. I am pretty sure that these sequins came from Peacecraft Love in one of my design team packages, and they're just what's left over. She used to give us enough product to do at least one layout for her, but typically there was enough product left over for you to do a couple, and there was always plenty of the sequin mixes that she put together to match the papers. I believe these papers were something from Heidi Swap, if I'm recalling correctly, and it's been a couple of years, and I just keep them in this little baggie on top of my desk because I am trying to use them up, and I've used them a couple of times this month already. But I'm just adding a couple of them here and there just to add a little shimmer. Next, I'm going to grab some of my labels that I'm always talking about, and I believe I showed them to you in my label binder in yesterday's Scraptember video. And so these match the colors in my layout pretty well. I haven't had too much issue with finding some that match whatever I'm working on, which is why these are some of the most used digital items that I have in my stash. And I could absolutely pull them into my Cameo and cut them with my Cameo. I don't, because I feel like they're easier to store in full sheets in the binder than they would be to have a stack of every single color. And I just, as you can see, they were relatively quick to cut out. I have some circular ones and some hexagon ones that might be a little bit harder to cut out by hand, but I don't know that I've actually used any of those just yet. They were a newer purchase from Illustrated Faith. That's where these came from. But I'm going to scuff up the edges a little bit, and I'm going to glue those down onto this layout. and that way I have a place for my journaling. All right, I've got this layout completely done. I'm really happy with my background and the minimal embellishments that I did on the page. Got my journaling written, and really, you saw me do everything on camera. I did move some things around and tried to straighten up these letters just a tad. But other than that, everything is finished and I'm quite happy with it. So I want to thank you for coming to my channel today. I really appreciate those of you who take the time to like, comment, and or subscribe. Make sure that you check my description box below for the Scraptember playlist for 2024. It's linked down there, and I hope that you have a great rest of your day. I am at We Create this weekend and hoping to get a bunch of scrapbooking done and some visiting done with some friends, and I hope you guys all have a great weekend too. Bye.